is this just fantasy or is this Frog Knight? Or rather, Tales of the Frog Knight. This is a book that I've been waiting for a very long time. This is a Kickstarter book, and I was a part of that campaign, or at least I donated to the campaign to make sure I got my book, and I did, along with some other cool little things, such as this awesome little illustrated card, which is just awesome, and these enamel pins of our titular knight. So this is a creation by Armand Bodnar, and I have been a fan of his work, of his just illustration work, for a very long time on Instagram, and he just started drawing this Frog Knight character one day, and people loved it, and he kept coming back to it, and I guess he just sort of developed a backstory for the image of this kind of adorable but tragic Frog Knight. And this is the first book of stories related to it. So this is the first time it's been a comic, and this is the only time it's been released is via Kickstarter. And first of all, it's a beautiful book. I am so pleased with how it turned out. I mean, I love how he draws, so there was no chance I wasn't going to like that. But he paired with another person to write the stories with him, and he also did and Bodnar did all the coloring as well. And the team up really works, and also they're really great stories. They're all short stories. I'm trying to think. There's like 5 or 6 of them, I think, in this book, and which is a decent size. And also the quality of the printing is really nice. And I actually even asked him on Instagram who he printed with, and it's Mixam. So that's a little free plug to Mixam. The quality of this printing, like the texture of the cover and the quality of the printing inside pages, it's just great. And so I think I'd like to try to print something with them soon, just to see if I can get the same result. But anyway, Frog Knight so far has just existed as illustrations with no story attached to it. But now we have, after reading this, I have a sense of who he is as a character. And I'm not going to cover every story. Similar to the Luke Eidenshank Gauntlet comic, it's a thing that I would want you to support the creator in getting. And I don't know if it's currently available, but it will be, I imagine, soon, especially if demand keeps up, which apparently there's lots of people who missed out on the Kickstarter who really want this book. So I'm sure it's going to get printed. But this first edition here, I'm very, very prized possession here. But I want to open it up. I want to show some images from it, some of the story, just to give you a sense of what's inside. But if you like this cover and you'd like to read a book that looks like this is that book. Because there's no decline in composition quality or anything from the exterior of the book to the interior. It's just all rock solid, and I love it. And there's also a little surprise inside that I can't wait to share it with you. But I guess we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was right. Six stories in here. And Digby, Baker, Baker-Porazinski, and Armand Bodnar, with letters and production by Armand Bodnar. And he has some color flatters here. This is nice. But look, I like this little remark I got, and signed by both creators here. But yeah, an Armand Bodnar remark or sketch, just delightful, incredible, just amazing, and yeah, it's lovely. but yeah, just the design of the book itself is great. But yeah, we have. But yeah, let's just get into it, huh? They all have these great little black and white kind of silhouette illustrations designating each one. But this first one, Ashes, this is kind of setting up Frog Night. So I'll share this one for sure in its entirety. But yeah, so this is, and a lot of them are fairly or like a lot of, I mean, Frog Night, is a silent character, deliberately so, as in like he's like kind of taken a vow of silence as part of his order of knights. And so yeah, I get this kind of ominous cloud of smoke, and here comes our Frog Knight. Gorgeous simplification of forms. I'm really feeling a very strong connection to say something like Andrew McLean and Headlopper, and also a little Mike Mignola, a little more kind of an open style than I'd say than Mignola, and it's kind of softer, rounder, but it still is in that kind of continuity, continuum. And also great use of color holds here to imply distance, using his line work. But his line work is so strong, and the clarity of it's so great. Um, and yeah, here comes our titular knight. And he sees, or he senses he sees the ashes falling, and he sees the pillar of smoke, and he arms himself and gets to running. And this is about the most we get of him talking, is this kind of gasp. And yeah, and I love the kind of simplicity of how he does these shadow, like kind of shadow colors there, and it's not overly complex, it's not precious, and it's even deliberately angular. It's super stylish. And I'll say right now, if this art style really isn't doing it for you, I don't know what to tell you. Then it's not for you. Simple as that. And have no fear. There are other books out there, but I really love it. Just from a draftsmanship perspective, I just think that the line art, the line work is great. I love how he stops the line around the panel, giving a little bit of space for the text that comes out of it. Whenever something breaks the kind of line there, which stuff kind of often does, he never brings the line of the panel all the way over. He always stops it just a little bit. Here we get our reveal of what he was looking at, and it's this home is just burned to bits. And then we get a reveal of this horror, a couple of corpses at least. And then this little kind of like photo frame that he pulls from the building, from the ashes, which that's what this story is called, is Ashes. Just really dark stuff to begin with. And we don't really know the context of who these people are, or if even they're anything to the Frog Knight. We don't even know, but we do know the kind of character, the kind of person, or the kind of frog that he is. And his next step is to bury these people. He digs the grave for them, but you can't just leave it as an unmarked grave, and he pries a stone from their burned down home, and places it. I love there's some really great moments for reaction, and again, this is mostly silent, entirely silent at this point, and it's still like, I think the pacing of the pages is really well done, and I also love how every panel on this page, the color temperature is relatively the same until we get to here, showing an exertion of effort in color, which that's a great thing that I feel like it's maybe even easier to do with a style like this. And I think that's not to be pushed aside, as I think that the style has a lot to do with how this coloring how much it does for them. I think it's great. We get to this page, and we just get this beautiful sequence of him walking away from the grave he's just dug. And I love it when like part of the scene extends, but we still see the passage of time, and he's taking his time walking away. But then, and with a little gesture here, he turns around because he still doesn't feel like he's fully commemorated the dead yet, and so he collects some flowers, and then he puts their little portraits on their grave. So it looks like a couple of raccoon people, which that's something that's in Frog Night, is that everybody's an animal of some kind. And then the nightfall, and then in 3 panels we travel, I would say, just about a whole year. Get fall, winter, and then the return of spring, and he comes back, and he leaves more flowers at the grave. So that's no words for the entire story, and yet it tells a whole story, and it's very sweet, it's very sad, and it's, again, not clear what connection he had to these people prior to their death. It could be that he just was passing by and saw their house burning and decided to give them a proper burial because he's a good frog, or it could be that they had a personal connection. But really, I think what's great is that it doesn't matter. He did it anyway. And so the actual connection is for us at this point to make for ourselves. So yeah, I think that is an amazing first story in the world here of Frog Night, because it just shows you the kind of character that, like, and by character I mean like the quality of the character, like what kind they are, or rather how kind they are, which is very. And yeah, just all this gorgeous coloring and great storytelling, and yeah, it's just wonderful. And I'll cover this one here called Silence, which is, it's got a little bit more dialogue, so we get a little bit more of an exchange. And again, he's definitely coming from, you could say, the Mignola school of incorporating silent panels, for mood and atmosphere to kind of give us a sense. And that's something that because the art style is so simple, it makes me want to just look at every single panel and try to gain as much information as possible from it. And I think that is it makes it a much more enjoyable experience, and I can make all the connections. But we have our grievously wounded frog here, but the idea here is that he is not alone, and potentially his opponent is also here. And we have this like fox knight who's just in this deep pool of blood, and yeah, so he is done. And what it seems is that he was on the hunt for him in some way. And the key plot element, if you will, of this story is that the fox knight has to have certain rites said over his body as he's dying, otherwise he will not move on into, I guess, the afterlife or something like that. And it's just like a part of his belief system with the kind of knight that he is. And I like that we're kind of building in that there's these different crests, which I guess represent different groups of knights. But the thing we learn about Frog Knight's order, if you will, is that they are silent. Specifically, like they don't speak, and so he either has to break his vows and say the blessing, or he has to leave this guy hanging. And so I just find that an interesting tension for the story, is having him need to, like if he's going to be honorable, he has to recite the thing, but it also breaks his honor code. So it's interesting, and I'm here for it. I'm also here because it just adds a little bit more kind of lore and story to the world. But also, it's just a very lovely rendered story. Just great colors and yeah, great, just interesting choices for like color holds and just, and I also, something I'll point out, I love his like angular like lighting schemes here to like just add some color, break up forms and stuff like that, or just show that like light's passing through, but it's always kind of on an angle and like a little boxy. And I love it. It's definitely like a stylistic choice, and I think it really works. And again, I think it's a lot of it has to do with the style of the illustration, the very simplified line work and character construction. I think if it was more complex or more, let's say, lifelike or realistic, I think that it, like, you couldn't do that as easily with like the color and the kind of angularness of it, because I just think that it would look odd. It would, and here I imagine most of you looking at this probably didn't notice. You just saw it as like, oh, it's just like the passage of light. So the fact that it is like that, I think is pretty remarkable. But what I find fascinating is he doesn't leave him empty-handed. He in fact brings his sword to him, and they kind of have this moment here on their own as he lay dying, and the kind of reveal here when we see these other figures show up who I'm assuming who are in line with the fox. They note that his blessing was written for him on the tree that he died upon. So I think that's an interesting like compromise. Is that like, I'm gonna recite this blessing, but I'm going to do it in a way that works with me. And so I just, yeah, it's a fun little kind of, you could say, twist ending, but it's also, I just love how small the stakes of the story are. And I think that really works for something like Frog Night, because I don't know, I think you could do something fun and epic with it. I mean, I something like Bone comes to mind. That's a pretty epic story with very simplified characters in it. And yeah, I think that you could do the same thing with Frog Night, and who knows, maybe that may happen in the future. But I'm also completely happy with these little quiet moments and these little like low stakes quiet stories, because like that kind of stuff happens in these worlds too. So I'll just kind of give a quick little overview of some of the other stories in here. This one's Shadows. It's about like Frog Knight fighting an assassin, and there's this really cool sequence where the frog is, you see him in action, and he's showing his prowess, and I really think that's an exciting thing to see. You have this one called Stars, which is essentially Frog Knight guides a blind man to a place where he once shared time with his son, who's now deceased, and Frog Knight kind of revisits some things from his past in it, and it's another really cool story, another with more gorgeous art to it. Flowers here. This is another one that's got some good action in it and some good story and character stuff for Frog Knight. These little things are cool. Um, yeah, nothing. Yeah, no surprises here as far as the continuing quality of this. And then we have Balance, which mostly doesn't feature the Frog Knight, but features other knights as well, including this owl figure, Lady Amira, and it just kind of sets up a larger story for the world of Owl Knight, and has me excited for more. And those are essentially the stories in Frog Knight Volume 1. And I'm just going to point out some of these awesome fan art pieces in the back. If you don't know Artyom Trekhanov, he's somebody who I want to find like an art book for, just so I can talk about their art. But I'm a big fan of theirs. They have a great Instagram presence, and they just create such fascinating artwork. And they did a short story in one of the, like, I think it was like Boris Karloff's Scary Stories or something like that. It's like a anthology book that recently came out. It's kind of reviving the Boris Karloff Golden Key line of books. Anyway, he drew a short story in it, and it was great. But I love seeing this kind of fantasy, him and doing a fantasy art thing. He's somebody I'd like to like commission a cover from or something. EPHK, just doing a really sweet, awesome job of Frog Knight. Derek Loffman, I love this. Makes me think of like Super Mario or something like that, like a video game. Another great piece, Nicholas R. Giacondino, just gorgeous. Yeah, love that. And then we get some other tributes to Frog Knight, including yours truly. That's right, I'm in Frog Knight. I guess that's my little bit of secret motivation for covering Frog Knight, even though I wanted to cover it anyway. But yeah, I did an art piece. I did a couple, and he actually asked if he could include it in the book, and he said he wanted this one. So there we go. And yeah, some Keith Browning in there, just all kinds of cool stuff. Really like, I mean, that one's really pretty too. Really great painting texture there. But yeah, just it's definitely something that people were already fans of it, including myself, before it was even a book. So that's something that I definitely envy. But here's like some of the first drawings of Frog Knight, and how different he was. He wasn't as little and cute. He was kind of a little bit, a little bit bigger frog. And honestly, I love both looks to him. I think the little one's definitely cuter, but I don't know. I'm really taken by this. I'd love like a print of that somewhere. But yeah, and then yeah, I love how he revised things, because apparently he redrew a couple of the stories multiple times, or he redrew Silence entirely. Which, with a short story like that, I feel like that's a thing you can do, but still pretty wild to go back through, because he was, you know, he took what he learned and applied it. And I think it looks great. Yeah, and then my name's in here somewhere, like right here. A list of all the people who make it possible. And then, yeah, he's got other work happening in other places. Primordials of Etra. So, yeah, and there's also music that somebody composed for Tales of the Frog Knight. So, that's super cool. So, yeah, that is the first printing of Frog Knight. Pretty great, huh? I love it. I think it's gorgeous, and I love the small scale for most of the tension, because I've seen many epic stories. I love epic stories, but I'm also excited when somebody makes small moments feel epic. So, thank you for checking out this, and definitely look into Armand Bodnar, and potentially trying to get your own copy of Frog Knight out there. While I have your attention, please consider supporting the Sidequesters Kickstarter going on right now that supports the next 2 issues of the book, issues 9 and 10. This is a collection of the first 8 issues, which is the first story arc. This is the first issue. I have these up here because I don't have copies of the new issues, because that's what I'm kickstarting, is a print run of these books, because more people are actually wanting to have the physical copies of it, and so I need to make more of them. Hence the Kickstarter. It all makes sense. If you haven't read Sidequesters yet, this is a perfect time to start, as there are many tiers that have the Volume 1 attached to the new issues. If you have read Sidequesters, you can now support the creation of the next 2 issues, which is the start of the next story arc, and it's the tale of their first mission as a team or as a unit on their own. And I'm very proud of the issues, and I can't wait for people to be able to read them. There's actually a preview up on Global Comics right now if you want to check it out, just to see what's coming. And yeah, if you could check the link for the Kickstarter, which I have included, please consider supporting it, or telling a friend that may be interested in it, or several friends, or everyone you know. I'm telling everyone I know. Along with copies of the new issues of Sidequesters, there are also sketch cards available, as well as some exclusive mini prints, which all, the sketch cards, I'll be drawing them myself. You can also add a commission onto it if you want me to draw something specific. And there's copies of Haxen that you can add to it, which tie into the Sidequesters universe. If you want to be a completionist and get everything that exists currently is set in this universe, you can get it. But if you just want to check out the link, maybe consider supporting this Kickstarter. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you. And that's all I have to say about that.